Welcome to the first in our series of webinars on the Governor of Victoria Export Awards. These webinars are aimed at giving you some support for your application, and they are presented on behalf of Global Victoria. I'm Collins Rex, and I'll be taking you through the facts and the figures as we move through this series of webinars. So starting off with today's series, just to recap for those of you that have not yet entered the Governor of Victoria's Export Awards or have not looked at the application process in the past. It is a two-tier process, which means you enter first through the Governor of Victoria Export Awards program, and if you are successful at winning at one of the 13 national award categories, you then progress through as a national finalist in the 57th Australian Export Awards. Now, you cannot enter at the national level without having been a winner at the state level. So only one way to enter the national awards program. Also important to note that Victoria is one of all the states and territories entering in this process. Every single state and territory enters in the same way with the same application form. That means whether you're in Victoria or you're in the Northern Territory, for example, everybody enters the same way with the same application form. So it is very much a level playing field. Also, the good news, there's only one application used for both awards programs. So if you win at the state level, you do not then need to complete any other paperwork for the nationals. Your same application applies in both awards series. The 13 national categories, as you see them there, and for those of you that have entered in the past or have considered entering in the past, if you look at the 13 national categories, you will see that there have been some changes this year. One of those notable changes is in the agribusiness category, which is this year called Agribusiness, Food and Beverages. It's a wider category, but in many ways also a much clearer category definition than it was in the past. Other changes to note to the technology and innovation category. This one has had innovation added. International education and training, also slightly different this year. Sustainability is a new category this year. It was environmental achievement in previous years. And there have also been slight tweaking to categories such as manufacturing and advanced materials, minerals, energy, and related services. Please bear in mind that you can enter in more than one category, but you are able to win in only one category. You can be a commandee in multiple categories, but you can only win in one. When you select the categories in which you enter, you are simply going to tick a box, and later on, when we get to some specific entry requirements, you will see that depending on the box that you've ticked, you will then have to provide some specific information for your category entry. The rest of the application is standard. So you have one form, you don't complete multiple applications, irrespective of whether you have entered in one category or several. I also just want to point out that there are a few categories that are what we effectively call cross-cut, which means it doesn't matter what specific sector you're in, you can also enter in these categories. E-commerce is one of those. So e-commerce is a category depending on how you deliver your product or your service. If the way in which you reach your customers is almost exclusively online, you will enter e-commerce irrespective of whether you are a professional services business, for example, or an international education and training business. Regional exporter is another one of those. So you will select your main category, and then if you are based other than in metropolitan Melbourne, you will also qualify for the regional exporter category, and similarly small business. Small business is for those businesses that turn over less than $5 million annually, irrespective of which broad category in which you are entering. Victoria also has some specific categories. There's the Victorian Exporter of the Year, which is chosen from the winner of those 13 national categories. One panel for each of the 13 national categories, judging you, selecting you, and then a different panel that selects from all of those winners the Victorian Exporter of the Year. The Victorian Export Award for Innovation Excellence is also a specific Victorian award. You cannot enter separately for that one. The way in which that one is selected is that all the judges in all the individual categories across those 13 categories can nominate an entry that they believe should be recognised for innovation excellence. And again, those entries are then judged by a separate judging panel. Finally, the Victorian Women in International Business Award, and that is one for which you can enter separately. You've got your standard application form. There's also a box to tick on the Victorian one for this particular category, and then you will have a separate submission that you will use to nominate the woman in your business that needs to be recognised. Important to note here that the woman that you're nominating needs to be the woman who substantially drives your export business. It doesn't need to be the owner of the business or the CEO of the business, but it does need to be the person who is instrumental in your export success. Very important to note that criterion. These are the 5 sections of the application form. You can see them in front of you there. Today we're going to focus on just the top 2, the introduction to your business and about your business and its export product or services. Over the course of this webinar series, we will focus on the remaining 5. Very important to note that as you go through your application, not only do you really need to understand what it is that you do well and be able to convey that to the judging panel, but that you convey it in a language that the judges will understand. Your judging panel is selected from generally industry associations, peak industry bodies, etc. They are not necessarily experts in your particular business, and they certainly don't understand your business in the same way that you do. So please make sure that you don't use industry jargon, particularly if you're entering in quite a technical category, and don't use acronyms and so forth that will not necessarily be known outside of your business. Right, let's get into today's information. First of all, looking at section number 1, which is introduction to your company. Now, this particular question has no score weighting, which means you're not going to earn points towards your application for this one. However, very important to note that this is the very first thing that the judges will see. It is the first thing they will read. It is the section of the application that will give them a really good sense of who you are, what you do well. And if this is written well, it is going to set you up for the rest of the application. Conversely, if your introduction is badly written, riddled with spelling mistakes, grammatical errors, you're not likely to do very well in the estimation of the judges when it comes to the rest of your application. So please make sure that you get this one right. You're allowed 200 words, use them. I also suggest that this part of the application, even though it comes first, you actually complete last. So complete the rest of your application, get that right, and then pick the good bits out of the rest and use that as the basis for your introduction. Also important here to pause on another hint. The application process is an online one. You're going to complete all the sections online. You're going to lodge online. However, I suggest that you do not complete it online, that initially you download the application, complete it in Word, get it right in Word, circulate it amongst your team, circulate it amongst some friendly outsiders who can all give you an indication of how well this is tracking, whether it reads well, whether you've explained things properly, use terminology that people don't understand, etc. Get it right in Word and then cut and paste from Word back into the online application and lodge it that way. So in the introduction, in one sentence, what does your business do? What do you sell? Which problems do you solve? And where do you export to? Very important question here is the problem that you solve. It's not important to just be buying and selling stuff. It is important that you are actually addressing a need in the market. And if you stress that in your introduction, you will be very well received. Your competitive advantage is what you're looking for here. So what was your marketing strategy and why did it work? Any major wins that you've had in the last 12 months and any issues that you believe have played an important part in the success of your business. All of that needs to be right up front in your introduction. Keep it simple, keep it to the point. Remember, your competitive advantage is why your customers buy from you instead of your competitors. Make sure that you include that, and always remember that this page could make the difference between you winning or not winning an award. So please do it well. The second question is where you start going into some nitty-gritty about your company, about its products and its service. And here you are also starting to actually get a score. So this question, number 2, is 25% of the overall weighting of your score. Question 2.1 asks you to tell us about your business. So you need to outline when your business started, why it came about, any key business milestones, so expanding into new markets, adding new divisions, growing your product lines, etc. Any ways in which you have serviced your market that stand out particularly, and any achievements that you've had. So those could be major awards that you've won. It could be as simple as going into a new market for the first time or winning over a particularly important customers. Also, this question asks you who your customers are and what they buy from you, and you are allowed 300 words in 2.1. In 2.2, you need to describe a single outstanding business success in 2018-19. So this is in the last financial year. In this current period, 12 months from where you complete your application back. A specific deal or activity that had a major impact on your business, that substantially improved your bottom line or your market penetration. And if you have quantitative results, please include those. So percentage of sales increased, number of markets entered, number of major customers won, sales units increased, for example, number of new products introduced, etc. If you don't have quantitative results, that's okay, but make sure that you choose something that is quite unique to your past 12 months that really puts you in the position that you are today, which is the position that needs to win an export award. And you are allowed 200 words. Now, I mentioned at the start of today's session that you would have to provide information specific to the category or the categories in which you enter. This is where you do that. So question 2.3 is where we have the list of category specific questions. You are allowed 400 words here, which gives you a sense of how important this section is, and you have a specific question for each category. So if you have entered in more than one category, you will provide the specific information for each of the categories in which you have entered. You will see as we go through these that the questions are all different depending on the category, and the questions acknowledge certain issues, certain fundamentals in those industry sectors. So 2.3.1 is the agribusiness food and beverage category. Here you need to outline what your business has done that can be considered innovative and or market leading in the agribusiness food and beverage sector. So this question, for those of you in the agribusiness category, is all about innovation. It is about what you have done that is different and unique compared to the norm in this industry sector. So what impact have you had on the industry overall? Anything that you've done that is disruptive, that is unique. It could be supply chain improvement. It could be the way in which you've applied your R&D. It could be product innovation, package innovation, etc. This is what you are going to discuss and highlight to the judges in your category. Question 2.3.2 is for professional services category applicants. And here you need to outline how your business has differentiated its products and services from those of your competitors. So this is all about differentiation. This is about competitive advantage. What have you done that is different from your competitors and different from the norm in your industry sector? It could be the way in which you deliver your professional services. Perhaps you do it all online and everybody else does it face to face. It could be the way in which you have tweaked your product offering specifically for a particular market. Question 2.3.3 is for the creative industries applicants. This is all about acknowledging what you as an Australian creative industries business has brought to an international audience. So this could be cultural exchange, it could be educating an international audience on Australian culture or a particular aspect of Australia. It could be the technology that you employ, it could be techniques that you use that are not commonly seen in the markets in which you operate. Now, bearing in mind the creative industries category is a broad one, you could be a dance company, for example, you could be a visual artist, you could be a graphic designer or an architect, you could indeed be a game developer. So consider what it is that you do and what it is that in your particular area you have taken to an international audience that is uniquely Australian. 2.3.4 is for the technologies and innovation category applicants. You need to look at the strategies that you've implemented to ensure that your business has a sustainable future in the digital technology industry. This question is all about acknowledging that in technology and innovation, things change really quickly. And the only way that you survive and indeed thrive in this industry is by constantly being ahead of the curve. And that is what you need to address in your specific question. So what R&D investments have you made and are you planning to make? What product and industry diversification applications have you put in place? So what are you doing to address the needs in a specific market, in a specific sector, making sure that you will remain a viable business going forward? Question 2.3.5 is for e-commerce category applicants only, and that asks you to describe the innovative strategies and online practices that you implemented to maximize your reach to your overseas customer base. So this is essentially a marketing question. It is not enough to just be selling online. You need to be able to cut through. So what is it that you do that allows you to do that? How do your customers find you in this massive online sales world? How do you reach them and how do you maximize your reach? Question 2.3.6 is for education and training applicants. You need to outline what your business is doing to attract customers, and those customers, of course, are international students, in relation to your competitors. So again, this is a marketing question. What are you doing to make sure that your international students find you, select you over and above anyone else in your sector providing education and training? So this is about innovation in the way in which you apply technology, it's new courses tailored to a particular market, it's providing value-add services for customers and students. 2.3.7 is for sustainability applicants, and as you would expect, this question is how you deliver environmental benefits. So not just to your customers, but overall. So what are you doing to ensure that your products and your services deliver environmental benefits, reduce environmental impact, and contribute to long-term sustainability? This is sustainability in its truest form. It's not the survival of your business. It is sustainability in a world context. What are you doing to address that? Question 2.3.8 is for international health applicants, and you need to show how your business is contributing to the international health sector. So what health benefits do your products or services offer consumers? That's almost a no-brainer. But it's also what you are doing in the industry as a whole to make a difference. So investing in R&D, identifying new products or services, anything that you are doing differently in your domestic business as a result of your international focus is what you need to be highlighting. The manufacturing and advanced materials category applicants have a slightly different focus in their specific question this year. You need to outline how your business has improved its supply chain and manufacturing practices to optimize efficiency, quality, production capacity, and/or customer satisfaction. Now, the reality is if you've done any of the efficiency, quality, etc. things, you've also satisfied your customers, because if you're doing all of that and your customers are not satisfied, chances are you're not doing it right. You need specifically to list what manufacturing output in value comes from your Australian manufacturing activities. This is to indicate just how much of your manufacturing operation is in fact Australian based. You also then, as a secondary part, need to list the Australian states and the countries where you have manufacturing facilities in operation. So if you have a manufacturing facility in Victoria, but you also have one in New South Wales and one in Queensland, you need to list every one. And if you are manufacturing in Australia and in an overseas country or countries, you need to list those as well. This question, again, is aimed at deciding just how much of your operation really is Australian, but it's also determining whether you are in fact Victorian-based or whether you should be entering for an export award in one of the other states or territories. 2.3.10 is for minerals, energy, and related services. And this question acknowledges that this particular industry sector is one that has its own unique issues. For example, it's quite cyclical depending on whether the industry is in an exploration phase or whether it's in a consolidation or a production phase, and that could materially affect your business. So this question asks you to outline any challenges that you've encountered in the past year in your industry and the strategies that you employed to achieve success. You must have had certain challenges. Please do not gloss over this question. These are the challenges that you've identified, and this is how you dealt with those challenges, not just for this year, but facing the future. So this is how you are facing challenges to make sure that your business remains successful and is sustainable. And again, we're talking here about things like industry diversification, market diversification, product diversification. Now, those are the industry-specific questions. You would have noticed that there isn't specifically one for regional or for small business, because there it is really just a case of whether you've been in operation for a certain amount of time or you have achieved a certain turnover, so you don't need to explain that to any great degree. As we finish today's webinar, just some key dates to note. Obviously, applications are already open. They opened on the 6th of May. Applications close, and this is an important day to note, Monday the 15th of July. In previous years, there have been extensions to this date, but you cannot depend on that. Make sure that your application is lodged online. You've got every confirmation you need to say that it has been, no later than 5 p.m. on Monday the 15th of July. The Victorian Awards ceremony held at Government House on, we don't have a specific date, but it is in October. And the National Awards ceremony, if you are a winner in one of those 13 national categories, in December. That, again, is held on a date that we don't yet know, but you will be advised, and also the location is not yet known. The National Award ceremony moves around from state to state, and as soon as we know where it is and when it is, we will notify you. If you enter the Governor of Victoria's Export Awards, you will be invited to the ceremony in October, and you will be allowed to bring a certain number of your staff members as well, because you get given a handful of tickets to the night. Very important contact for you to note, Darren Vouch. You see Darren's telephone number there and his email address. Please make a note of both of those. Darren is your main contact at Global Victoria if you have any issues with your online application lodgement, for example, if you have any questions around the technicalities of the actual application itself. Darren will be able to assist you, and Darren can also arrange one-on-one mentoring if you need specific assistance for a certain part of your application. This is where you go to apply. It is global.vic.gov.au/GOVEA. Very important to go into the website, register your interest to apply, and once you've done that, you're in the system. And once you're in the system, you will get prompts to make sure that you're on track with your application and that indeed you need any assistance or don't need any assistance, but you've just decided not to go ahead with it. So be prepared that once you've entered the process, you will probably get a call or an email from Darren double checking where you're at and if you need any further help. Thank you for your attention today for this session, and I look forward to your company for the remaining webinars in this series. Thank you.